Inside you lives a silent theater where ancient characters play their eternal roles. The hero, the mother, the shadow, the trickster. They are not myths from the past. They are alive in your thoughts, your choices, your dreams. Every triumph and every struggle is shaped by these hidden forces within. The question is, will you uncover them and take control of your destiny, or let them rule your life in silence? Inside each of us lives a silent theater, a stage where ancient characters, heroes, mentors, tricksters, and shadows play out their eternal drama. These figures are not inventions of the mind, but timeless realities of the human soul. They whisper through our dreams, appear in myths, and shape the choices we make, often without our awareness. The archetypes are the great patterns of life itself. They live in every culture, every age, every individual. The mother, nurturing yet demanding, the hero, courageous but fragile, the shadow, dark yet essential. They do not belong to you alone, but you carry them as a vessel of humanity's collective memory. To ignore them is to walk blindly through a maze that has already been mapped by countless generations before you. But within these patterns lies a paradox. Every archetype contains both light and shadow. The hero may rescue, yet also destroy through arrogance. The mother may give life, yet smother with control. The trickster may awaken insight, yet deceive into ruin. When we deny their existence, they act upon us unconsciously, shaping our fate in ways we cannot control. To face them is to gain freedom. To integrate them is to gain wisdom. This is the essence of the inner journey, the path of individuation. It is not about erasing these forces, but about recognizing them, embracing them, and allowing them to find their rightful place within you. To meet the hero without rejecting the shadow, to embrace the mother without losing the self, to accept the trickster without becoming its victim. The archetypes are timeless because they are you. They are the mirror in which you see your highest potential and your deepest fears. The more you know them, the closer you move toward your true self. And in that knowing, life becomes more than survival. It becomes meaningful. The question, then, is not whether the archetypes exist within you. The question is, will you awaken to them? Or will you let them live your life in silence? The hidden patterns of the psyche are not inventions of imagination, but deep structures that shape the very way we live, think, and feel. When you dream of a wise old man guiding you, when you sense the protective embrace of a mother figure, or when you find yourself compelled by the courage of a hero, you are not merely experiencing random thoughts. You are encountering ancient forms, archetypes, that dwell in the collective unconscious. They are older than culture, older than language, and older than the very stories humanity tells. They are like invisible rivers that run through the human soul, and though you cannot see them directly, their presence is revealed in the way they shape the contours of your inner world. These archetypes emerge as universal images because they belong to no single individual. The great mother, the shadow, the hero, the wise old man. These are figures that appear in myths across continents and religions, in the folk tales of tribes separated by oceans, in the poetry of civilizations that never touched one another. The reason they are everywhere is because they are already inside of us. They live in the psyche as eternal blueprints, awaiting the moment they will be called forth into awareness. Consider how these hidden patterns influence daily life. A young man may feel drawn toward adventure, guided unconsciously by the call of the hero. A woman may find herself nurturing and protecting others with a force that feels larger than her own personality. She is embodying the mother archetype. At times, someone might find themselves sabotaging their own progress, falling into deception, or being lured by temptation, and they are under the sway of the trickster. We think these are simply personal experiences, but in truth, they are ancient dramas repeating themselves through us. To live without recognizing them is to be moved like a puppet by forces unseen, believing the strings belong to us when they never did. These hidden patterns are not only present in individuals, but also in societies. Entire nations act under the spell of the hero when they celebrate conquest and courage. Cultures may fall into the grip of the shadow when hatred and violence rise to the surface. The archetypes move collectively as well as personally, shaping the destiny of humanity in ways we can neither fully control nor deny. This is why myths, religions, and legends continue to speak to us with such power. They are reflections of inner realities that never die. To understand the hidden patterns of the psyche is to recognize that we are not as free as we imagine. Much of what we call choice is influenced by these underlying forms. Yet awareness of them opens the door to freedom. When you can see the hero within you, you can choose when to act with courage and when to restrain your pride. When you acknowledge the shadow, you no longer project your darkness onto others, but take responsibility for it within yourself. When you meet the wise old man in your dreams, you learn to trust the voice of inner guidance rather than searching endlessly outside for answers. The archetypes are not enemies to be destroyed, but guides to be understood. They are the living architecture of the soul, timeless and unchanging, yet endlessly adapting to the circumstances of each new life. They speak to us in symbols, in emotions, in the recurring themes of our existence. To ignore them is to wander blindly in a world that feels random and chaotic. To recognize them is to begin to understand the hidden order of our inner reality, and in that recognition, a path toward wholeness quietly unfolds. Within every human being lies a paradox. The same forces that can elevate us can also bring about our downfall. The archetypes that dwell in the psyche are not simply symbols of light and goodness. They carry within them both constructive and destructive powers. To live as if only one side exists is to live in illusion, because every aspect of the human soul has its shadow. This battle between light and shadow is not fought outside of us in the world alone. It is fought within, at the very center of our being. When people imagine the hero, they often see a figure of bravery, strength, and triumph. But the hero is not only a savior, he can also become arrogant, reckless, or destructive. The same courage that conquers fear can also blind one to wisdom. The mother archetype embodies nurturing love and protection, yet she also has the potential to smother control, and demands sacrifice from her children. The trickster brings laughter, surprise, and insight, yet he also deceives, manipulates, and destabilizes. Each archetype is two-sided, and until both sides are seen, we cannot truly understand who we are or what drives us. The danger lies in denying the shadow. When we claim only the light, the darkness does not disappear. It simply moves underground into the unconscious, where it waits to erupt in ways beyond our control. A person who insists on being endlessly kind may unconsciously harbor resentment that explodes in anger. One who seeks only to be wise may secretly despise their own vulnerability and project foolishness onto others. Denied shadow always returns, often more violently than if it had been acknowledged in the first place. This is why self-knowledge requires honesty, not only about our strengths, but also about the darker impulses we would rather ignore. To engage with this paradox is to practice integration. Integration does not mean erasing the shadow or pretending it is no longer there. It means recognizing that every archetype carries both light and dark, and that wholeness requires us to hold both sides together. To deny darkness is to live in false purity, but to embrace only darkness is to collapse into despair. The true path is to balance the tension, to stand in the middle of the paradox, and to learn from both forces as they shape us. This inner struggle mirrors the struggles we see in the world. Societies, too, project their shadows when they deny them. Nations that claim to fight only for freedom may unconsciously enforce oppression elsewhere. Cultures that elevate purity may cast out those who do not conform, forgetting their own imperfection. Just as individuals must face their shadow, humanity must face its collective darkness. If it does not, the shadow will rule from behind the curtain, guiding events without ever being named. The battle between light and shadow is not one to be won in the usual sense. It is a lifelong dialogue. Every time we are tempted by arrogance, envy, or fear, the shadow makes itself known. Every time we choose to confront these forces consciously, we allow a piece of the shadow to be integrated. Each recognition, no matter how small, brings us closer to balance. It is not perfection that is asked of us, but awareness. The archetypes remind us that what we fear most within ourselves may also be the source of our greatest growth. To face the shadow is to reclaim the energy hidden within it, transforming it into wisdom, humility, and strength. This is why the shadow is not our enemy, it is our teacher. Without it, the light would be shallow, incomplete, and fragile. With it, we discover depth, resilience, and a truth that does not break under pressure. The paradox becomes the very ground on which we grow into our fullest selves. The journey of individuation is the path of becoming whole, of discovering the true self that lies beneath masks, roles, and illusions. It is not about striving to become someone different, but about uncovering what has always been within you, hidden under layers of conditioning, fear, and denial. At its core, individuation is the reconciliation of opposites, the conscious and the unconscious, the light and the shadow, the personal and the universal. It is the process by which a fragmented soul learns to stand as one, fully alive and authentic. Every human being begins life in a state of potential, carrying within them the seeds of countless possibilities. The archetypes are present from the beginning, shaping dreams, desires, and behaviors. Yet, without awareness, we remain dominated by them. A person may live out their life as the eternal hero, constantly fighting battles, yet never finding peace. Another may be trapped in the role of the caregiver, giving endlessly while forgetting themselves. Individuation calls us beyond identification with any single archetype. It asks us to step back and recognize that we are more than the roles we play. This journey is not easy because it demands confrontation with the unconscious. To individuate is to descend into the depths of the psyche, to face the shadow that contains all we have rejected about ourselves. It is to recognize the trickster within, to acknowledge the destructive impulses we prefer to project onto others, and to see the wounds we carry not as accidents, but as signposts pointing toward healing. Each encounter with these hidden aspects of the self is painful, yet necessary. For only by bringing them into consciousness can we free ourselves from their unconscious control. But individuation is not only about confronting darkness. It is also about awakening to inner guidance, often represented by the wise old man or the anima and animus, symbols of the deeper wisdom and balance of the soul. These figures appear in dreams, visions, or sudden insights, reminding us that we carry within us a source of guidance that transcends ordinary thought. By listening to this voice, we begin to align our outer lives with the truth of our inner being. The path of individuation is deeply personal, yet universal. No two journeys are the same, because each person must integrate the archetypes in a way that honors their unique soul. For one, it may mean finding courage where fear has dominated. For another, it may mean embracing vulnerability where pride has stood as armor. Yet the destination is the same wholeness. A wholeness that does not erase difference, but includes it. A wholeness that does not deny the shadow, but integrates it. A wholeness that is not borrowed from society's expectations, but discovered within. The world around us often pulls us away from individuation. We are pressured to conform, to wear masks that please others, to play roles that bring approval. Yet this only deepens our separation from the self. Individuation requires the courage to step away from such illusions, to listen inwardly, and to walk a path that may appear lonely, but leads to authenticity. It is the path of those who dare to know themselves, not as an image projected outward, but as a living reality within. When individuation is embraced, life changes in subtle yet profound ways. Choices become clearer, not because they are easier, but because they align with the truth of the self. Relationships deepen, for we no longer project our disowned parts onto others, but meet them with greater compassion. Suffering, though never eliminated, becomes meaningful, for it is seen as part of the larger journey toward wholeness. Individuation does not promise perfection, but it does offer authenticity, the chance to live as a whole human being rather than a fragment of one. In this process, the individual becomes a bridge between the personal and the universal, embodying both the uniqueness of their own life and the timeless patterns of the collective unconscious. To individuate is to awaken not only for oneself but for humanity. For every soul that becomes whole brings greater light to the world. It is the timeless calling of the psyche to move from fragmentation toward unity, from illusion toward truth, from fear toward the fullness of being. The archetypes are not distant myths or abstract ideas. They are living forces within you, shaping the way you think, feel, and act. To walk blindly through life is to let them rule in silence. But to awaken to them is to step into the great work of becoming whole. The journey is not about perfection, nor about eliminating darkness. It is about integration, about balancing the light and the shadow, about recognizing every pattern as both a challenge and a guide. When you face the hidden patterns, when you embrace the paradox of light and darkness, when you walk the path of individuation, you move closer to your truest self. In that wholeness, life ceases to be a series of accidents and becomes a meaningful dialogue between the soul and the world. The question is not whether these archetypes live within you. They always have and always will. The question is whether you will awaken to them, and in doing so, awaken to yourself.